Welcome to the Relationship Cycle with Jorge and Nelsa, where we discuss dating and other significant relationships. We're back, everybody. This is the Relationship Cycle with Jorge and Nelsa. Jorge, welcome back. What's going on, Poppy?
What's shaking? What's shaking? We got a fun show for everybody tonight. This is Nelsa's idea, so I thought we would go down this rabbit hole and let's have this discussion. We are talking celibacy and dating in 2023. Oh man,
Poppy, there was no need for that disclaimer. Thank you very much. I'm excited about it because we actually had some really great comments, as always, from our listeners via our Facebook post. And I'm just thinking about this was a very personal topic for me because, you know, when you get on the online dating, especially, not even online really, just getting to know someone. My girlfriends and I have really been talking about this a lot with, you know, being able to date someone and get to know them without the interference of sex, and how much you know, sexual tension can be there and make things feel fun and exciting, but something about crossing that line with somebody that can really take the relationship places that you never intended, or you start seeing some signs that maybe all of the wooing and the courtship phase of the relationship kind of turns once it feels like people get what they want and then they just kind of drop the mask. And so we really wanted to kind of bring this up because, you know, there's got to be a fine line, I think, between getting to know somebody and then knowing if you are really sexually compatible with them before making a long-term commitment. Because that's important. You made a point on the Facebook chat, and I kind of agreed with you. I agreed with you that you sort of want to know, you know, test drive a little bit before you know, making a big payment on a car. If the Hemi really is, you know, got the Hemi engine, or what are we doing up under there? Is it a Hellcat or is it just a 4-cylinder? So anyway, so what about you? Have you had any periods of celibacy now that you're back out here dating again?
not intentionally, not purposely. But you know, sometimes it happens. Sometimes, you know, when you're dating, sometimes you will go through droughts. That's just kind of the reality of it. That, you know, when you're single, there's times where, man, it's like you're, you know, a hot commodity, and then there's times where, man, I can't even get the birds to shit on me, you know. So you know, especially during the COVID. During the COVID, that was rough. That was celibacy in its own for the single people for the most part. Because obviously there was really no opportunities to really go out on dates. There weren't, you know, a lot of social gatherings and get-togethers, and obviously people were paranoid, let alone just hanging out, let alone having sex. So that in itself was definitely a challenge. My perspective on that is I would not be able to do that, but I also respect when someone brings it up and kind of lets it be known, so that way we're all on the same page as far as, hey, this is kind of my stance on this. So if this isn't your style, this isn't your cup of tea, then we're probably not a good fit. And I actually do have an example. This is like my first year that I was separated. I went on a date with this señorita, and she was a really nice girl, really, you know, grabbed my attention. She was actually a veterinarian. She was a doctor. And on the first date, we went out and everything was going really well, really smooth. And then somehow we kind of got on the topic of religion, and she told me that she was not going to, you know, she told me she was celibate. So due for religious purposes.
Mm-hmm.
So then I asked her, like, so does this mean that you're not having sex unless it's a long-term relationship, or are you looking for marriage before you have sex, or where are we at with this?
Mm-hmm.
You know, because I needed some context, because I'm like, you know, this is all, I'm still trying to find my footing, and it's, you know, I didn't have a lot of experience in dating at that time, so I was still kind of learning as I go. And she told me that she wasn't a virgin, but she told me that, you know, for religious purposes, she had decided to practice celibacy and wait until marriage, even though she wasn't a virgin. So I was like, well, yeah, I don't think that's going to be a good fit for me, because I believe in God, but you know, I'm not ultra religious or ultra conservative for that matter. And you know, towards the end of my marriage, our sex life was not very active. So I'm like, this would defeat the whole purpose of me dating, to go into one relationship that's not going to be offering any type of intimacy, when I just left the marriage
that
didn't
right?
have any intimacy. So I'm like, yeah, this is definitely not going to work out for me. But, you know, I appreciated her sharing that on the first date, so that way, you know, we kind of didn't, you know, get misled, you know?
Right. Well, I think, you know, let's look at a definition, because I think that's very important. You said something just a little bit ago, like you're not out here um, trying to be celibate. And I think the difference with celibacy is it's the state of abstaining from marriage and sexual relations. So
Yep,
I think the
correct.
intention is I'm not having sex. That is the intention. So it's not just an accidental, I'm just going through a dry season, but I am going through a dry season on purpose. I am purposely staying out of the weather. I'm purposely staying in the house so that the rain does not fall on me. Um, and so when we think about it that way, and you know, all seriousness, and I do think, you know, spirituality is very important. Wherever you land on that, it is your personal relationship, is your personal decision, and it should be respected. But I do think that the honesty of saying that that is your intent, and then not putting yourself in situations. Um, I think it was Jamie in her post.
All right, looks like we're back, hopefully.
Welcome back. Just a little technical difficulty. Thank you for holding out through the break. Um, so yeah, I think honesty. You know, every show gets boiled down to this. I say it every week that we do our podcast. That honest communication is what helps you have the basis for a healthy relationship. And no matter what you're going to do, whether it's the spiritual, the financial, or like you've got to commit to being honest about your intentions and what you want and what you're looking for. And you know something, I'm finding that the more honest I am up front, the more I weed out people who, like, it would just be a waste of our time to get together because we just don't align with what I want and what the other person wants. And then you don't have to worry about making compromises that make you feel sick to your soul. You know, it's that serious, or you don't feel like you got those little small like snags because you didn't tell your whole truth up front, you know? So,
No, and especially with something like that, that's kind of important. It's kind of a big deal. So that way, if a man genuinely is interested in you, which um, I will say that, you know, not every woman that I've been with, you know, wants to sleep with me on the first or even second or third or fourth date. But if I'm really into her
mhm.
and she's captivated my attention, I'm okay with that, as long as we're on the same page as far as with the intentions, right? And then at that point, it's up for me to decide whether I still want to court her and pursue her,
Mhm.
while understanding that, hey, you know, if you want me the way you desire me, you're gonna have to prove it to me, basically.
Well, and um, and I like that. Like, some of the comments were really well done. One, for instance, let's just jump on in there. Coco Winfrey was very open and honest about her relationship. She said, to the question, is it possible in 2023 to, date celibate and be celibate? And she said, yes, because my man won't give me any laughing emojis. He's holding out more than I am. And he used to work in the adult entertainment industry. Doing things differently in your late 40s is hard, or maybe a lack thereof, Coco. So sorry, I'm sorry. All just jokes. We got to keep the show from being too dry. But I thought this was an interesting take that here she is, her late 40s. I'm in my late 40s, and I know that Kundalini energy is very strong in women in their 40s. We don't always match up with our mates. Men in their 20s are peaking. Now ladies in their 40s are peaking. So she's with someone who worked in the adult entertainment industry, y'all. That's porn. And now he doesn't want to do it, and she does. And so what a way to go about the relationship. But then she went on to say, after you said, is there a particular reason for his stance? She said, because he was a whore in his former life and he's truly becoming a new version of himself. I think it's the most admirable thing about him. He slept in the bed next to me for the past 5 nights and was a perfect gentleman. It's actually been amazing to be with someone who wants to know me for me and not just my body. You kept the conversation going with her and asked, what was your initial reaction when he told you his approach on this? She says, Jorge, I thought he was kidding. I mean, he worked in the film industry for 12 years and had women at his disposal. He no longer wants a woman like that and actually sees my value. I see his as well. He wants to know me and know that he really likes me for the long road. I'm more than okay with it because it has made me slow down and get to know him as well. It's actually what I needed in my life. That I thought was one of the key components here, that she is slowing down. He is slowing down enough to know if I really like you and not just the sexual tension that is between us.
And like, I think this, because I feel like this show kind of goes hand in hand with another show about the 90-day stance before being intimate. And obviously we're kind of taking it a step further with people who actually try to practice celibacy for either personal reasons or religious beliefs, or just because maybe they're just not into sex like that. I think they're called asexual. I want to say
asexual beings.
Asexual, where they they don't wish to be intimate like that with someone. Like, it doesn't interest them for whatever reason. But to me, it does boil down into, when it's appropriate, obviously, to being honest about it. So that way that person needs to understand that, hey, if this is your end game and your only end game, then you're going to be pretty disappointed. So, and I would say, now I will say this to kind of shift the thought process here. I have had some women tell me that men who either have practiced celibacy or have not had a lot of partners can kind of be a turnoff, and I'm going to tell you why. Because then women feel that they are going to be very inexperienced and very green. And we already know, it's no secret that, for a woman to get pleasure from a man, and for a woman to find a man or woman or person, right, that she's very compatible with in the bedroom, is extremely difficult. So let's add the whole concept of a man who has had zero experience in the matter into the equation. So even people who are experienced, particularly men, sometimes have a tough time fulfilling you. Imagine a guy who's never done the job.
Right. No pressure. No
So you're going to
pressure.
have to be, as a woman, if you meet
Yeah.
a man like that, right, you're going to have to be patient and be like, hey, I'm really going to have to teach him, you know?
Right.
Like,
So,
so I've, some women, they've kind of been turned off by it. I've met a couple where they're like, hey, I like a guy that kind of knows his way of how to handle things in the bedroom because, you know, they don't want to feel like, hey, I got to teach them everything, you know?
right. And, I think it's a very societal framework too that we're working in terms of men are expected to be conquistadors, or out there making conquests and getting this experience, yet women are told to stay virginal until you're married and whatever. And I was like,
The double
we
standard. Yeah, the double
and it
standard.
doesn't
Yeah.
make sense though. Like, where are the men getting this experience if you want all the women to stay on the shelf? Like it's almost like a cat chasing its tail, so to speak. So,
It's like, damn if you do and damn if you don't.
right. So, like, if everybody were to be celibate, if everybody was not, out here, but I think, again, we talked about this on a previous show, it goes against human nature. The urge is for life to create more life. Um, you know,
Agreed.
the
Absolutely.
the act of sex itself is to create a seed that will grow and develop into another person. And so we're really going against nature almost with the whole thought of celibacy. But um, went to healthresearchfunding.org to look at some of the pros and cons of celibacy, because I thought it was very important. Like, why would you even do it at this stage in the game? I could see early on, but if you've been married or if you've already been in a sexual relationship, and our friend Manny gave us a lovely shot to the arm at the end of our conversation there. But we'll come back to that in just a minute. But some of the pros: no sexually transmitted diseases, of course, no unwanted pregnancies. You don't have to worry about thinking you got something from somebody, including a baby. Self-acceptance. You're not concerned with what somebody else thinks about your body. Less distraction. You can focus on yourself, your goals, the things that you have in your life. It's not forever. It's a choice, but it does not have to be a forever choice. You can try it for a little while. If it doesn't make sense or it doesn't work for you, then you can always become sexually active again. Cons of celibacy: say sex may be a necessity. Says, according to quite a bit of research in the article, sex may be a necessity to have a well-balanced life. There's some debate about how necessary sex is since society has evolved so greatly, but most experts agree that living a life without sex will mean that there will be some areas of your life um, that aren't going to be fully developed. A healthy sex life for an adult actually can improve your overall health. It can cause relationships, is another con. Most healthy adults are choosing to have sex, and if you're not, it may be very difficult to get to the next intimate level with your partner. Frustration can definitely come from a lack of sex. And your body's going to react to things whether you want it to or not sometimes. Um, you miss out on the sexual high of orgasm, and the hormones that can help, lower depression and create those,
The feel good chemicals.
yes, the endorphin release. So, again, you can look at it both ways. Like, yeah, let's try it for a little bit, see how we do, see how getting to know each other. And I can say, when I have, I won't say I've been celibate necessarily, but abstained, because I just really wanted to just be with me, let's say. Going out with people with the intent that you are not planning to have sex with them does open up, um, I think, some hidden doorways. Because a man, if I say, even if I don't mean it, yeah, I'm not going to say I lied, but let's say I wanted to change my mind. But even if I said, I'm not going to, I'm not interested in casual sex, some of them would be gone so fast and unmatched me so fast. And I would be like, good. that's a great weed out process to just say that in the beginning that my intent is to not have sex, up front right away with anybody, and then see what happens. Because, ladies, that's really truly all some people are looking for out here, in the world, not just on dating apps. Some people are just looking for a quick thrill because they've got some holes that they need filling. And instead of doing the work on yourself, they're out here wanting to do some work on you. Um, and I found that that's been a good deterrent for people that really weren't for me. And honestly, that jump into sex right away, I just don't find that attractive, honestly. Like, you don't even know if we vibe. You don't know anything about me. In fact, if you talk about it in our chat first thing and we're just getting to know each other, after matching, to me, that is like, ugh. I'm so disgusted. I'm like, what are you? You got out here picking up every frog and snake and tadpole and putting it in your mouth. Oh, what are you doing? So, no judgment. But for me, that's what that feels like.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think just to kind of, you know, lay out the conversation here, I think number one, it is important to let it be known, right, when it's ideal, right, when the conversation gets to that point. I do think that it is important to kind of lay that out there, so that way you give that individual a choice. You give them the choice that, hey, this is where I'm at in life right now, and this is my stance on this. If this is something that you're interested in, then hey, buyer beware. um I will say that this is probably more common from females, at least from my personal experiences. I've only met two males in my proximity and circle that were practicing celibacy, and both of them were for religious purposes. And
Mm.
when I met them, one was 29, and I think the other one was 27. And they had a they were working on their relationship with Christ, and obviously they wanted to do things the right way, from the church perspective. So they were late 20s and virgins. Those are the only two men, though, that I've come across that practice celibacy
Mm.
intentionally.
Wow. Wow. And getting to the male reaction, Manuel Torres Jr. says dating celibate question mark question mark question mark should be a title for a reality TV show about two virgins. Oh Lord, man, he always got a good joke for us. But honestly, he says, let's keep it 100. Other than religious beliefs, why do people who had sex, kids, marriage, all of a sudden want to be celibate? There's no such thing as a temporary virgin. Oh man, look, we hope he is listening to this show. Um, well, I think honestly, it's a good question. I can see the validity of it after you've done all that, but I think celibacy does create a reset. It's a natural reset button so that you can avoid the distractions like we talked about in the pros and cons. Um, you can get your mind back sometimes. I think sometimes sex can really cloud a relationship. Even marriages, may need to go through a period of celibacy where, just to kind of hit the button where you've kind of lost your vision, you've lost your own self in the other person. Maybe there are issues that need to be addressed that sex is covering, because a lot of people will retreat and escape into sex as a way to not deal with issues. Um, so I think there are a lot of good reasons for being celibate beyond spirituality. But I think that's a really great one. I think, kind of purifying yourself, and not that you're going to be a virgin again, but there's an energy clearing. Like, when you have sex with another person, you're not just going through a physical act with them, but you are really taking in their energy.
Right.
Like, you are sharing energy with a person. So
Absolutely.
my depression, my illnesses, um, my stuff, my joy, whatever it is being transferred to you via that sex portal. And so I think people don't really think about how serious that transaction is in the spiritual realm, not just the physical.
No, to me, I think some people feel that maybe it's necessary because, let's be honest, sexual intimacy does complicate things. It does cloud our judgment. To what levels is, it'll vary on circumstances, but it does cloud our judgment. And obviously, we see the person differently. We see the person differently when you've crossed that line, because I can go out somewhere and I can tell, and when people are hanging out, I'm like, yeah, those people have probably, have been intimate with each other, because it's almost like a hidden bond that's been created now, because you've kind of opened yourself up to this person and vice versa. So it is a big deal, and it should be a big deal.
Right.
Even in 2023, it should be a big deal. But to me, bottom line, if I'm interested in the woman and I feel like, hey, this woman really appeals to me, I've waited. I think the longest I've waited that I was, seeing someone, I want to say it was over 4 months. And, we kissed, but we didn't actually do the deed until like 4 months into us knowing each other. But I was really into her, and we enjoyed, just hanging out and doing other things. And scheduling was difficult too, so it's not like I could see her every other day or anything like that. So I'm sure that probably played a role. But it definitely created a lot of sexual tension. And then when it did happen, it was amazing. So there are.
I'll look at that little chuckle, a little happy remembrance, Poppy.
So I mean, there are some benefits to, kind of letting the moment kind of work up, because man, I'm telling you, from a man's perspective, when you desire and you covet a woman and she is elusive and she is quote unquote hard to get, or she is just different from the other women, you'll stand out, because a lot of people, men and women, right, are using their sexuality to kind of lead, right, to attract people. So when a woman is like, hey, yeah, I'm sexy, but that's only reserved for VIP. So if you're not VIP, you're not getting in this.
That part.
So that right there can definitely help you stand out as well, man or woman, right? Because if you're a woman and you go out with a man who just kind of genuinely takes you out on a date and doesn't expect it, that's going to make him stand out as well.
Well, and I went to church with a cousin of mine, and he talked about kids today being overexposed. Like, back in the day, you didn't see everything, you didn't hear everything, everything wasn't right in front of you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I think sex is one of those things that there's been a great deal of overexposure, and just using it, like you said, as the main event, as opposed to a course in the 7-course meal. There's some things like intelligent conversation, humor, an active, healthy lifestyle. Can you coordinate that? Is that even compatible? We've talked about these things in other shows, but to think that sex is the main event all the time in every relationship can really make you miss out on friends. Because what happens when things don't go as planned, or the relationship fizzles out intimately? Can you still remain friends with that person? Can y'all still do things together? Can you still, have a good conversation with them, or, be a dependable friend or emergency contact, if you will, for that person, if the physical part of it doesn't really blossom into something amazing?
And to me, I do find it a turnoff when a woman just instantly leads with her sexuality. Then to me, at that point, I already know that, hey, this is just going to be for fun. because
Okay.
just that, when a woman leads with that, that to me is already telling me that, hey, this probably isn't going to lead to anything serious. And don't get me wrong, you know, if you're single, hey, have your fun if you want to, right? Because people are going to judge you either way, so you might as well do whatever the hell you want to do.
Right.
And do it on your own terms, whether it be celibacy or if you want to, you know, live an exciting, outgoing life, either or. But
Mm-hmm.
to me, when I see a woman that is only using her sexuality as a way to gain my attention, that to me, I feel personally that, hey, that's not going to be enough for me, at least for something long lasting or something that, you know, can have some sustainability.
Totally fair. Totally fair. So before we leave, I do want to go through a couple more of these. Lisa Jones says dating celibate is hard. Some of the men these days are sex motivated. It's frustrating. And I like what you responded to her. You know, it's very understandable. Intimacy is an integral part of a good relationship. So, hoping or assuming that compatibility is guaranteed in the bedroom is a risky gamble that can be the beginning of the end for said relationship. So, I mean, to your point, you don't necessarily have to go to lead with, you know, opening up with, you know, I want to sleep with you. Come on over to my house. Let's do it, whatever. But knowing that that may not potentially be a point that you're both going to agree on, you may lose out on. And to my thing, I don't think you're losing anything. If a person is ready to discard you because you don't want to have sex, um, you know, for a period of time for various reasons, if that really is what is motivating them, then it probably most times is not going to be a good fit anyway, because they're already you know, disregarding what is important to you. And you can never have a good relationship, I think, with that. Um, but I do think, you know, you might miss out on somebody you are, if you're in that season of your life where you feel like you don't want to have sex at all, then maybe you just need to be looking for friends and not really dating.
Right, because now in 2023, fast forward, right, like society has shifted so much where, I mean, you turn on, you know, the TV and you can't get away from sex. I mean, there's commercials where people are making out. I mean, I remember one commercial, it was like a car commercial where the kid was driving and the parents were in the back seat making out. So, like nowadays, you know, it's no secret, sex sells. So,
Mm-hmm.
to me, I mean, you know, I think you have a pretty good grasp on how men operate and how men behave, and you know that men need sex. Like the average man is going to need sex. So, um, I just hope that, you know, she's not kind of thinking bad of men because they want sex, because that's just our natural instincts, anyways.
Well,
Uh,
and you might have to think about, you know, if you don't want to be cheated on, or if you don't want to be, um, you know, lied to or whatever, because some men are going to say that's a need for them, but every woman's not going to agree to have an open relationship. And so then where you left with, you know, either he's going to, you know, go behind your back because he is getting frustrated, or, you know, you're breaking up because that's not what he wants, you know. So it's
yeah, and that's
just
why I
can't be on
remember
the same page.
when that lady told me on the date that that was her long-term goal and intention, then we we went out one more time, actually, because we had such a good time on the first date. um, and you know, I was like, all right, let's go out again. But then I knew that, hey, this is we're kind of trying to force the issue here. So after the
Yeah.
second date, I decided to just be like, hey, this isn't going to work, and we're not compatible, obviously, and we're looking for two different things. Not that, you know, I expected sex on the first date, but you know, I had zero desire to try to start focusing on getting married again when I'm trying to get out of a marriage, you know, when I was
Yeah.
separated. So, and then on top of that, into a relationship where there's not going to be any sex unless there's a wedding ring. So, um, Yeah,
And which is
that's just.
totally fair for her to feel like that, for her to want those things.
Oh, absolutely.
Um,
Yeah, even though she wasn't a virgin, remember that she was not. She had sex
right.
before. She just decided that now she was just gonna try the celibacy thing. Which, hey, she's within her right. But as a man, I can also say, hey, you know what? That's not a good fit for me.
Right. Exactly. Especially like you said,
Just like,
coming out of a marriage that, might have been less than active or whatever,
and just
the
like,
case.
just like as a woman, right? If a man is just trying to focus on the sexual stuff, you as a woman have the right to say, you know what? That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a man that's going
Hmm.
to fulfill me in other ways, not just sexually as well.
Right.
So,
Um,
it's to
it's
each their
tough.
own, but it's
Yeah.
important to lay that out there because it's an important thing. And last time I checked on this, I saw in Men's Health a few years ago,
Hmm.
romance and intimacy was in the top 3 reasons for divorce. So
Wow. So men are feeling like they don't have what they need either in those departments, huh?
so think about it. So like, yeah, if the intimacy and the sex is not fulfilling for one of the partners, that's going to become an issue at some point. So that's why I kind of pointed out to
Hmm.
her that, hey, that's a risky proposition.
Yeah.
To basically go old school and marry somebody and have no idea whether you're compatible or not, man, that's
I know.
oof.
It feels very foreign now, doesn't it?
I mean,
Um,
it feels like it feels like it feels like ages away of how we go about our dating life now.
right. Jamie Baskin said, really great, thoughtful commentary tonight from all of our listeners. I am and have been doing this for 3 years. I will say I'm open and honest about it. The men are usually okay for about the first 3 months. It's not until they realize I'm not coming to their house, staying the night, or Netflix and chilling, they start losing their patience. I have not, I told y'all, my at the time 14-year-old had to tell me what that meant. Blessed assurance. I have not successfully dated someone who is not about the physical aspects of sex. At this time in my 40s, there's so much more to this dating thing than sex. I spent my 30s figuring out who I was and wasn't. Now I want to know how you handle life. What are your goals? How do I help you achieve them? Boundaries, do they exist? How do you manage stressful situations? Are you healthy emotionally? Are you emotionally available? Have you discovered what intimacy looks like outside of sex? How do you enforce your boundaries? What are your likes and dislikes? I've not dated much. I'm
Yeah,
sorry, that
that's a
was
tough one because I get it. That's
yeah.
gonna be a tough pill to swallow for a lot of guys. But I will say this, right, as we wrap up: you freak your man, you keep your man.
Oh. Oh my gosh.
You ever heard it? You
I
remember
met
that
Jamie.
saying?
It's just like when she's saying how she's asking all these things, and these are very important things, though. Like these are
Oh,
not topics
absolutely.
that you
Yeah.
ought to just go willy nilly forward in a relationship without knowing. Um, but I could just sort of hear the tone in the way she's written this. It was great. I get 100 times more matches than I do dates. However, I have not dated a man who is interested in building a healthy foundation, inclusive of mutual respect, communication, accountability, and responsibility. I respect that. I'm okay with that. I just wouldn't be okay with having sex with someone who is not any of those things. I'm not holding out for any reason but for that. I'm dating with a purpose, and I don't want to be a broken version of myself when I meet this person because I laid down leading with my sexuality with men that did not value my worth. Um, Powerful statement there. Powerful statement.
And I think
Uh,
that's a lot of good self-awareness because you also, as a
mhm.
person, have to know, right? Because I've had women tell me before, Nelsa, that they say, "Hey, look, if I sleep with you, that means that I'm really, really, really emotionally invested in you.
Mhm.
So if you get this, just know that you've done something to me to really captivate me." I've had women tell me this, so almost like they're telling me, like, "Hey, look,
Yeah. You don't
ain't
want
none of
this
this."
because we're gonna be going together if you get this.
It's almost like they're giving me like a warning label, like, "Hey, look."
Look, I might slash your tires if you try to ghost me.
So when I hear that, I'm like, hey, you know what?
Yeah.
That's good to know because that way I know that, hey, look, I don't want to take it to that level unless I'm really genuinely looking forward to, explore,
A
something long
deeper
term with this
relationship.
woman, because
Yeah.
you also don't want to mislead or be brutally honest that, hey, look, for XYZ reason, I don't think this is possible. And then obviously, I think, my style, I don't like to be deceitful. I like to be upfront. And then I can say that, hey, when you keep it real, man, you sleep better at night.
Honestly, that is the truth right there. That's a whole word right there, Poppy. Our last comment comes from Kate Hackamer Marks. She says she did it for almost 2 years and found that it helped me not to confuse good sex and love. I was actually just talking to a friend about trying another period of celibacy, and here's another good reason for it, as I am just coming out of a toxic relationship. I also found that it weeds out the fuck boys really fast and made my life a whole hell of a lot less complicated. Laughing emoji, hands in the air. Um, so yeah, again, that reset button we talked about earlier. She's coming out of a toxic relationship. Perfect time to practice celibacy. And honestly, maybe not even dating for a while if the relationship was toxic before going to some therapy or, some other things going on. Especially, we had another comment that was a follow up from another listener where she said she felt like as soon as the men touched her, she felt violated in a different kind and was looking for a different kind of love. So if you're feeling some strong feelings around that touch piece, again, there may be some issues there around intimacy that you need to delve a little deeper in with yourself, maybe a therapist or somebody who can help you um, look at why do you feel that way. A toxic relationship, get some good clearing out, energy work, therapy, do some things to really to build that self-love and confidence back up before you go out there and have to feel like you got to defend yourself and defend your territory, or feel like you got to put walls up and you're out there dating and not making really good choices because you're not in a good place to do it anyway.
Yeah, I saw that comment that she made, and that to me either sounds like either there might be some trauma involved going on there,
Yeah.
or she could be in a sexual person.
Right. Like we
Where
talked
they're
about
turned
earlier.
off, like
Yeah.
they're turned off by the idea or the act of being touched in that manner. So it is possible that maybe she's in a sexual and she just probably needs to come to grips with that. Or there could be, other deeper underlining issues that are triggering that. And a good friend of mine, Manny, actually told me this quote. He said, oftentimes we bleed on the ones that didn't cut us.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Very accurate. Very accurate.
So if she's had,
So,
I'm not saying she has, but I'm just saying if she potentially had a very bad experience with the previous man, then maybe that could be some things that she's carrying over that
yeah.
are going to be a hurdle before she starts to allow another man to be close to her like that, possibly.
Right. And we don't want to conjecture, but just some really good talking points tonight. Was a great topic. Thank you to everyone who put in on our Facebook post. Thank you for all of you who are looking at us on YouTube, listening to us on Spotify and all the other podcast outlets. We really appreciate your support, and just stay with us on this ride. We're journeying very close. We're about a month out from our 2-year anniversary, Poppy. So lots of good things to celebrate and lots of good shows still to come.
Absolutely. We got we're going to keep the train rolling. Thank y'all so much for your love and support. Please like our videos on our YouTube channel. Please give us comments, give us feedback. If you got friends, family, girlfriends, women's group, church group, whichever, share the podcast and let us, get into their phones and computers and tablets because we are trying to expand and grow our movement.
Awesome. I love it. Until next time, Poppy.
Buenas noches, good people. Gracias. Thanks for joining us today on the Relationship Cycle with Jorge and Nelsa. Do you have show ideas? Email us at jorgeandnelsa@gmail.com. Follow us on Spotify or anchor.fm for more great shows.